It's Lou at 2.
Join me this afternoon on BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
Any trail that quotes a Meatloaf song is all right in my book. Well done, Lou. It's approaching 7:25. Good morning. Now, controversial plans to fence off part of a green space in Peterborough for use as school sports pitches have been approved. Beforehand, protesters against these plans to restrict access to a large area of Werrington fields gathered at Peterborough Town Hall. Reporter Sharika Ahmed spoke to some of them.
Can you just tell me quickly why it's important, what is important for you to come today?
Because they're going to make a land grab for the fields that everybody uses all the time, and they say that they're to be used for the school. This is a big public area, big public space that everybody uses, and it's going to be fenced off with a 6-foot-high fence.
It's a subject I feel very passionate about. We're looking at a situation where the school is going to take around 45% of the total Werrington Fields area, and I just think it's unreasonable.
Are you hopeful of some positive outcome today?
Yes, I'm always hopeful.
We've used the fields for 40 years and we think it should remain ours, the public.
Full access?
Yes.
From our point of view, this is a land grab.
And basically, they've just ignored our needs and they've ignored our requests. It's a land grab. It really is as simple as that.
Save our fields! Save our fields! Save our fields!
That was before a council meeting yesterday. Things got quite heated inside the council chamber as members of the new Labour cabinet moved to a vote.
If the cabinet today approves the recommendations, we will move at pace within fencing the land off and the arrangements for the communities agreement to be implemented and to remain available to the community during the lease. I hope in time residents who are against this way forward will see the compromise as the lesser evil than I'm sure you do now.
Yeah, in the end, the Cabinet followed the advice of officers and approved leasing the land to the Ken Stimpson Academy for sports pitches. Nairi Ambarchian is from the Save Werrington Fields campaign group. Nairi, good morning.
Good morning.
You've been campaigning on this issue for years now. Is this how it ends?
No. It has been a long time, 5-6 years. I think this morning there's an overwhelming sense in Werrington, and there are kind of 800 of us who support this issue on the Facebook group, and more than 1,000 that signed the petition. And last night, more than 100 of us got to the town hall, which isn't easy. They kind of scheduled the meeting for school pickup time and work time, but 100 of us got there. And I was really proud of Werrington and how everyone kind of pulled together. I think the sense this morning is obviously disappointed with the decision, but I would say absolutely dismayed with the process.
So how come? What was wrong with how it played out?
I'm not political in that I get involved with issues that I kind of care about and see happening in Peterborough. I've lived here forever, all my life. I'm not political in terms of kind of party and stuff, and I'm not privy to loads of the process. I haven't seen loads of it, but I was so shocked last night. I know you've been talking about sleep movies. It was like being in a sleep movie when it came to the vote. So I was left feeling, what are these people for? Aren't they meant to scrutinise? There were no questions from those cabinet members. No questions. No discussion or debate. Nothing. No scrutiny. And I just think, what then are they for?
I suppose those councillors would say they are following the advice of officers who are qualified and trained to advise them and to recommend what they believe is the best decision.
I guess one of the things that really struck me about yesterday and the process and how it sort of feels being on this end is that the access that the academy group got to the process versus the access that the Werrington community got, and by that I mean, not just normal members of the who am I, but the neighbourhood council, the ward councillors, the we've been calling and asking for kind of meetings with the people who are making decisions to point out flaws in kind of issues. And we've been met with closed doors. But it became really obvious yesterday how much time they've spent, the officers and councillors have spent with the academy. And it just feels wrong that if there's kind of two external parties negotiating something and the councillors are meant to be arbiters, how can that be that you get such unfair access? It felt really shady, and it honestly felt like the cabinet members were like deer in the headlights. Just kind of no. I think they are there to scrutinise what's the information. Otherwise, what is the point? It really felt like they were so meek and kind of unprepared. I don't know. It felt very not what I was expecting, and a very strange experience, and really worrying. It kind of felt like tissue paper democracy, like you could put it in water and it would dissolve.
So what will you do, Nairi? You said that this isn't how it ends. What's your next step?
So we're going to question the process, because it does feel very shady, just odd, like, yeah, weird. So we've got options around how we're going to do that, and it's been nice to see some of the councillors who lost their seat. I think Peterborough has lost a lot of experienced councillors, and that was really apparent yesterday, and I hadn't really realised that before yesterday. But we're getting some kind of advice from, again, not party political. You know, Nick Sanford is a councillor who's been a councillor for a long, long time, so experienced. I think that, yeah, there was a lot of that experience that's been lost, and I was left wondering, what have we voted in? Because I don't think that it's not about the decision. Like, the decision is the decision. But if the democratic process feels so flimsy, that's the bigger worry.
Nairi, fascinating to hear your thoughts this morning. Thank you very much. Nairi Ambarchian there from the Save Werrington Fields campaign. She's been campaigning on this issue for years now, Nairi, as a member of the Werrington community. We'll hear later on from the leader of Peterborough City Council, relatively new in the job. That's Councillor Dennis Jones of the Labour group. Hear his response to those suggestions of tissue paper democracy and passive councillors just nodding things through, and maybe slightly uneven access to the council behind the scenes. That's later on BBC Radio Cambridgeshire Breakfast. 7:32 news headlines now are from Hannah Morrison.
Good morning. A group of MPs have written to the Health Secretary calling for fairer GP funding in Cambridgeshire. They say the county gets the lowest amount of money per person in the entire country. Campaigners say they're disappointed a large part of Werrington Fields in Peterborough will be closed to the public. The City Council's approved plans to fence it off in order to safeguard pupils at the Ken Stimpson Academy, which sits on the land. The Labour government's agenda for the next year will be set out by the King in a speech to Parliament this morning. Bills are expected on transport, house building and transferring power from Westminster. Researchers say a self-testing kit could lead to a huge increase in the number of women being screened for cervical cancer in England. The tests can be done at a GP surgery or at home. And police in Cambridge have used one of the open-top sightseeing buses to spot people illegally using their mobile phones at the wheel. In one afternoon, they say 3 drivers were stopped and given tickets. Others were given words of advice. BBC News for Cambridgeshire, more at 8.